The war has begun, and Taiwan has already suffered 18,000 casualties. We need Taiwanese women to fight, because without them, we will fail. What up? Takeho washiso na. A big ups to everyone who supported our previous video by liking and sharing it with your friends. And out of all the interesting comments I read, there was one that really caught my attention. This person asked if we dared to tackle one of the most controversial topics in Taiwan right now. Should Taiwanese women join the military? Well, that word should seems to be a tricky one as of late, but needless to say, this is a very interesting question. And if we don't dare to talk about it, then how can we call ourselves a hip-hop channel? After all, facing difficult issues in society is at the core of hip-hop culture. Back when American hip-hop dared to use music to combat social and political issues, they brought international attention to police brutality, social injustice, and deep-seated issues in American society. KRS-One, Nas, Kendrick Lamar, and even Kanye West were very powerful thinkers for our hip-hop generation. And most of you may not know, but there was even a rich barbershop culture where black elders would advise the new generation on how to talk to women, talk to friends, and how to navigate the harsh realities of life.
You get in good with American woman's father, you in good with her, ain't that right? He ain't lying.
This crack-ass cracker gonna tell me I need a diploma. Now right there, that's racism, that's classism, that's eroticism. Man, come on, I'm talking about isms.
And in the barbershop, there was no room for PC culture, just the brutal, unforgiving, and sometimes shocking truth.
We don't need reparations. We need restraint, some discipline. Don't go out and buy a Range Rover when you're living with your mama and pay your mama some rent.
And in the face of some very serious changes coming to Taiwanese society, I encourage all Taiwanese with even a tiny bit of artistry to embrace their inner hip-hop.
What's up, my nigga?
If you can write lyrics or tell a story and share your point of view, I got tons of beats, son. So here's the thing. I've never been in the military, yo. I have no idea what that world is like, and I'm not even qualified to talk about this subject. But that motherfucker writing the subtitles you are reading right now served for nearly 2 years in the military and is very qualified. In case you forgot, his name is... Now, we've seen a lot of people debating and arguing, mostly arguing, about whether or not Taiwanese women should serve in the military, online and offline. And after a 2-minute discussion, we at Haltisa realized something really important. You're all wrong as fuck.
What did he just say?
What the hell?
Now don't get triggered, I'm gonna tell you why. Taiwanese women, along with men, should protect Taiwan together. Now, before you semantics warriors start saber rattling in the comments, let's clarify what the word should actually means. It does not equal an absolute, and nor is it mandatory in nature. Don't believe me? Let's check the dictionary. Should is used to say or suggest something that is proper, reasonable, or the best thing to do. Like, you should smash that like button, or you should subscribe to our channel right now. So if everyone can agree on that, then we should be able to move forward. You know the drill, this shit will be divided into 3 parts, just for you. And by the end, hopefully all the ladies can make a clear decision on their future in the Taiwanese military. So, Awid and I sifted through tons of reports and research regarding women serving in the military. We found that most people generally base their opinions on their own ideas rather than actual real-world scenarios. For example, many women suggested that they could assist in delivering military logistical supplies. Anyone who has ever been in the military will tell you that logistics is actually more difficult than combating on the front lines. Soldiers must carry large amounts of materials as well as heavy boxes and equipment. One single fuck-up could result in casualties and possibly even military defeat. Logistics units are the most vulnerable yet the most important units on the battlefield and arguably the most difficult job to perform. What about cooking? Simple, right?
How about no?
You gotta get up at 4 a.m., carry all the ingredients yourself, and prepare a meal for up to 500 people in 3 hours. In a kitchen of sweltering heat, moving giant pots and heavy materials. And that's just breakfast. As soon as that's done, you gotta start on lunch and dinner. You'll likely work late into the night, assisting the head chef, maintaining hygienic kitchen standards. And this is all required for an ordinary soldier. Although the physical requirements are the same across the board, these guys have to work much harder. Well, what about clerical jobs? You know, paperwork and shit. That's usually assigned to sergeants. Now, if they're in short supply, then soldiers will have to fill the position. In the Taiwanese military, there are 5 types of clerical officers: personnel, operations, training, logistics, and finance. As a soldier, Awi was in charge of training operations and programs. Regardless of which one you are, all 5 must be trained in combat. When others are resting, you are working, unless you're a lazy hide under your desk all day.
你是懒惰虫，你是懒惰。
Otherwise, clerical soldiers are just like other soldiers, but they have to do more work. There are an estimated 25 clerical soldiers in a 500-person army. Clerical and logistics are tasked with working much harder than their counterparts. In addition to more work, their physical requirements are greater and the pressure and responsibility is much higher and can cause anyone to buckle under it all.
I can't take that kind of pressure. No, sweet Jesus, please.
For example, Awid was suddenly assigned a training routine to be completed in 1 day. No notice, no briefing, no details. As unfair as it sounds, if he fucked up, not only is he done, but his commander and the other 60 members of his squadron are also done. Now, he could have argued and said, "Oh, 为什么只我一个人要做的？那不公平啊！我们军人都不是equal吗？" But instead, he responded, "F it, let's get shit done." He stayed up all night, no sleep, and by morning, he had to get up and run those 3 kilometers just like everyone else. But the task was completed flawlessly, and as a result, he gained his squadron's respect and they honored him with 荣誉假. Now, this world may not be what some of you imagine. Don't believe me? Hit up the comments. Those who were or are currently clerical and logistics officers, please share your experiences. Now, there were some people with the impression that if they join the military, they get to learn some self-defense.
And by bending my knees, I lower my center of gravity. And by bending sharply forward...
Nah, bruh, that shit's for special forces only. The truth is, most people in the army operate like minions. What about weapons training? Actually, most weapons are designed so that any idiot can use them. So if you run into any operational issues, your intelligence might be called into question. Once you've met the basic training qualifications, you'll get the hang of it in no time. But after that, it gets a bit more tricky. Things like artillery calculation, mortar positions, and that stuff are usually all performed by professional officers or sergeants. You likely won't even get a chance to see these areas. Now, some people, including me, thought that joining the military means you get to stay in shape. 4-month to a 2-year fitness plan, baby. Wake up and go jogging every morning. So you want to get in shape, huh? Well, before you go on that jog, you got to do a 30-minute warm-up. Minimum 2,000 jumping jacks. And if you're a paratrooper, your legs need to be strong to handle that impact from parachuting. So for you, 5,000 jumping jacks. Then, when your legs are as soft as a wad of cookie dough, you can start your 3-kilometer jog, only to come back, throw in hundreds of push-ups, and do it all over again, motherfucker. So how's that for a fitness plan? In addition to physical fitness, the more practical training in the Army is to train your mind, learning to accept harsh treatment and being yelled at to prepare for actual combat environments. Accepting shitty assignments, unfair illogical training such as no showering for 3 days, sleeping on wet sheets, and smelling other soldiers' filth. And on top of all that, you have to keep your cool. So what we learned from that task is that sometimes you have to sacrifice your individual equality for the benefit of the group. And they will reward, honor, and respect you. Because now they know that when shit gets real, you have their back and they'll definitely have yours.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe! Now, this was all Awid's account from about 20 years ago, but maybe things have changed now. For those of you who have recently been in the service or are currently serving, please feel free to share your experience in the comments down below. Now, with all that said, let's see how other countries handle women in the military. So, first, let's have a look at the country that loves war more than any other. My very own United States of America. We have been in a perpetual state of war since the founding of our country over 200 years ago. Oh yes, we may seem like very civilized, peaceful individuals, but don't get it twisted. Them stripes on our flag ain't no color dye, yo. We have effectively trained a group of people who regard killing as their day job. The United States Marine Corps. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. They only just opened unrestricted enlistment to women back in 2016, and during those 6 years have provided extensive reports on mixed gender squadrons with statistics on combat performance and comparisons between all male squadrons. The results? all-male squads move faster than mixed-gender squads, especially when carrying ammunition, which coincidentally, the Israeli military rectified by requiring female soldiers to only carry 4 magazines instead of 6 like their male counterparts. When it comes to accuracy, men outperform women in every category of each weapon. When it comes to scaling walls, men would first chuck their backpacks up the wall before they climbed it. However, women had to be assisted with their bags before climbing up the wall, which actually I found quite interesting. As a parkour coach with over 15 years of experience, I've seen firsthand that female students have especially difficult time in scaling a wall. This is because it requires a large amount of explosive force and dynamic strength in the upper body. However, women are much better at performing certain movements more smooth and gracefully. Okay, so back to the Marines. The all-male squadron had the biggest advantage when it came to injuries and evacuations. For men, the probability of being injured in action is 18%. For women, it is more than double that at 40%. And of the 21 time-loss injury evaluations, 19 of those injuries were suffered by women in the lower body. In every stage of military training, the probability of women being injured is 6 times higher than that of men. So far, we've looked at stats for physicality, but what about the psychological effects? As most people know, many soldiers returning from action suffer from some form of PTSD and/or psychological damage. According to research performed on American veterans, even if female veterans are less exposed to traumatic events, the probability of female veterans suffering PTSD is twice as high as male veterans. However, both groups suffer in different ways. Women usually have anxiety and depression, whereas men are more prone to alcohol and substance abuse. But what about other countries? Well, the first country in the world to conscript women and produce Wonder Woman is a good start. Although Israel has been drafting women for 70 years, it only requires Jewish women to serve. And if you're pregnant, married, have children, or have strong religious beliefs, then you are exempt. In 2014, 5% of Israeli combat troops were women, and as of this year, it has increased to 18%. As for the physical fitness requirements, some specific items have been removed entirely for female applicants. Wall climbing, shorter running distance, fewer magazines, and although the number of Israeli soldiers is increasing, most applicants are in favor of the reduced physical requirements. By the way, if there are any ladies out there that want to learn how to climb walls quickly, efficiently, and effortlessly, then stop by our 板桥跑酷馆 and we'll show you how it's done. 拍谁吼，太久没有做业配。 So let's hop on a flight to Norway and see how they do it. Norway became the first European country to conscript women back in 2015, although it's not as compulsory as you would think. They select potential soldiers based on criminal background, of course, physical and mental condition, but most importantly, their personal motivation to serve. But when called upon, anyone has the right to refuse the invitation. Out of 60,000 potential candidates, about 20,000 actually joined, and the number of women has increased from 21% back in 2017 to 33% in 2020. And get this, in Norwegian mixed gender squadrons, men and women actually have a natural division of labor. Men are engaged in weapon handling and cleaning and maintenance, and women are engaged in indoor cleaning and maintenance. And in spite of all this, when surveyed, female soldiers overwhelmingly preferred the mixed gender squads to all female squads because, and I quote, all female squads have too many goddamn quarrels. But I'm curious to know, what are they actually fighting about? For all you ladies watching, leave a comment down below to give us some idea. Now, it's not all fun and rainbows in the mixed gender squad. In addition to the increased likelihood of sexual affairs, incidences of sexual harassment and rape are pretty high. In fact, Norway has one of the highest rates of sexual harassment in the military, with 78% of female soldiers filing reports. Now, what about the physical training requirements? Well, because literally no woman could pass the original physical fitness test, the Norwegian military was forced to lower the bar. So after that, let's pop next door to Sweden, the second European country to conscript women, and you'll find that the majority of female soldiers are all enrolled in Navy and Air Force due to the physical requirements of the Army being too high. Our final stop brings us to the Netherlands, where all areas of the military are open to women to serve. Now, all genders are required to register at the age of 17, but they are only required to serve in the event of war. Any volunteer must pass all required training with no exceptions for the physical portion. True equality. So, having looked at these countries in their research, it would seem that women might have a bit of a tough time in the army and other military branches, especially when it comes to the physical training and the psychological effects. It may prove difficult to compete with men, but does that mean they shouldn't be in the military? Like I said in the previous episode, in order to think, you have to risk offending others, and this part may very well do just that. But keep in mind, we have no malicious intent. Our intent is to bring about discussion and encourage people to really think.
Hold on to your butts.
Okay, PC mode deactivated. So far, what I've seen is everyone debating and arguing, mostly arguing, over this issue. And as my little sister Tremai said, logic is for solving problems, not to create excuses. A lot of people are arguing their points from the perspective of gender equality, and as a result, looking for excuses instead of the essence of solving the problem. Here at Haltizha, our opinion is that the question is not whether women should join the military out of a need for equality, it's whether or not they should join out of a need for national security. When approaching it like this, if you think they should join, then the next question is, how do we develop a way and tools for women to participate that works best for them and enables them to protect the country in the most efficient and effective way possible? Well, let's look at the Army. Physical disadvantages and performance drawbacks in mind, what roles can they serve? Maybe different weapons or specific jobs in different units? Looking at the current Russian-Ukrainian war, we might have a good direction. Drones. In America, drone pilots are the fastest growing sector in female aviation, jumping from 3% in 2016 to 7% in 2019. That's more than double in 3 years, yo. And with the emergence of unmanned armored vehicles and the rise of cyber warfare, we may need women now more than ever. Perhaps our logical efforts should be more focused on developing low-energy dependent troops rather than debating the issue of gender equality. This is the mistake that I think most people are making right now. If you look at national defense and security, military capability is not the only problem. Recently, the ex-president of a Taiwanese semiconductor company donated $100 million US. Good Lord, that's a lot of money! For what purpose? To raise national awareness and morale. This shit is a very serious problem for the country right now, yo. In history, most of the wars we've seen were physical, but now war is social. It's psychological, and that shit is poisonous and extremely lethal. It can weaken interpersonal connections and national pride. For example, in America, the radical left tends to shout rhetoric of individuality and being independent rather than being American. Through this language habit, people are trained to approach issues from an individual perspective instead of as a family, a group, or a country. Everyone is caught up in striving for equality. Are men and women the same? Should women be soldiers? But they fail to see the real problem and ask the right questions. Instead of tirelessly arguing with their fellow countrymen and women to find reasons why they're being treated unfairly, I think we could use women taking up arms in social warfare to develop a weapon to incite social unity. In the military, this is commonly known as political warfare. Those who have served in the Taiwanese military are probably very well aware of the effects and realize that currently, that shit is low as fuck. Now, this next aspect of national security is where I think Taiwan is suffering the most. It has already cost the country 18,000 people as of last year. I'm talking about the national birth rate. In 2021, 18,000 people more died than were born. Check this, 14,000 perished from 2014 to 2021 in the war in Donbass, but that was over a period of 7 years, yo. Taiwan lost more than that in 1 year. Now, it might sound crazy to say, and maybe even a little bit sexist, but ladies and gentlemen, y'all need to quit f***ing for sport and start f***ing for survival, yo, for national security. And because we know the risks involved in women giving birth, just like the Ministry of Defense pays men for serving in the military, maybe it should pay women for giving birth as well. Let's dish out $120K to commemorate every woman who decides to contribute to national security. Now, in order to thank the fighters who will increase Taiwan's future, I did some math. If the number of newborns is 300,000 per year, that would amount to a yearly expense of 36 billion NT. That's about the equivalent of 60 F-16s. And in this birth rate war would turn the tables, making women the main fighters in the war and men the logistical supplies. In fact, in the case of national security, women would play a more diverse and arguably more important role than men. Now, to all you lovely single ladies out there, we are not saying that you absolutely must go out and have babies, otherwise you can't contribute. Women are much more than just people makers. Shit, the president of the country is single and she's straight running things. From drones to planes to politics, we could use more women in all fields of government to help Taiwan win.
You can do it! You can do it all night long!
Now, I already know what some of you are thinking, and don't get it twisted. We know that the current economic situation makes it really difficult to raise a child in modern times. But we hope that those who dare to do so, those who dare to struggle for the future of Taiwan, can be properly honored, respected, and paid, son or daughter, or both. You're your how. And in the words of the Danish,
det handler om at være med. Do it for Denmark.
Now, I hope this video will encourage some couples to leave them gloves in the drawer tonight and do it for Taiwan. But if that's too much to ask, maybe we can start small. If you agree with the government that the birth rate is a matter of national security, then you can still take action in a small but effective way. Don't post articles such as, "Life without children is happier," and "Top 10 reasons to be happy as a single person," because this implies that women with children are less happy. And it would also encourage women not to have babies, yo. This is what I mentioned before. Social warfare is very powerful. Don't believe me? Need proof? The current American social trend of body positivity has been pushed to the extreme and cited as a contributing factor to obesity, resulting in America declaring its own national security issue. Military enrollment is at its lowest point in American history. God, 全世界最爱打战的国家找不到人可以帮忙去打欸。75% of young Americans don't even qualify to join the military. Why?
The Pentagon warns obesity in America is threatening national security.
I'm telling you, this social warfare shit is no joke, yo. So do what you can to help Taiwan fight for its future children to win the war.
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Now, these are our perspectives, but we would like to hear about your perspective in the comments. What ideas do you guys have? What alternative weapons could we use to defend Taiwan? Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you on the flip side. Peace!